Hello, everybody. It's Friday, November 1st. Welcome, November. But you know what that means?
Front Office Friday! New month edition? I don't know.
New month edition. Let's go. New month edition it is. Oh, somebody's asking in the chat, what is this intro song? It is kind of Mega Man, but not.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to go with it, right?
Yeah. Sounds like an 80s, 90s Nintendo game.
Yeah.
Which is great.
That was our era. Remember having to blow in the cartridge to get it to work?
Know what the more amazing part of that was? We all knew to do it. There was no internet. Nobody told us to do. We were just like, oh yeah, that's how you do it. My Nintendo 2 got to the point where you had to jam something in on top of it to hold it down.
Oh, I remember doing that.
Yep. And you had to get it just right in there. But yeah.
That was those were the good old days back in the 80s. Yep.
Truth.
Good times. Good times. You know, I found there was I got my first Nintendo when I was in kindergarten. I won it in my school's jogathon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which was awesome because my grandpa didn't think I could run that many laps, and he bet he gave me an amount per lap, but he wanted to be tricky, so he was like a penny per lap doubled each lap. You know what I mean?
Oh, nice.
And then I just ran a ton of laps, and then he wound up having to pay I don't know, something like $700 or something, which in 1987 or something like that was even more money. So I won the Nintendo, and definitely remember those days, blowing in the cartridge and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, that's a tangent off of a Mega Man comment there.
Yeah, I have my Nintendo. The problem is I don't have any of the cables to hook it into the TV. Otherwise I'd hook it up. I have a Super Nintendo too, from back in the day. So yeah, I'm excited about it. Yeah.
I remember almost buying a Super Nintendo, or wanting one anyway, just because Street Fighter 2 came out. On it.
Man.
Oh, that game was so awesome.
Remember, I don't know if you ever played. Did you ever play Earthbound? That was a really cool game. It was like a weird role-playing game.
I did not play that one.
Yeah, it was a fun one too. So, all right, basketball, I suppose.
Let's go. Let's get into some basketball stuff here. Keith, I guess we got to start off. I was out trick-or-treating, and I got the news that Paolo Banchero, at least I think that was mid trick-or-treating. Paolo Banchero was out 4 to 6 weeks, torn oblique. I mean, my goodness, that's awful. And it's a reevaluate in 4 to 6 weeks. Really rough news for the Orlando Magic. Keith, what's the sentiment like there in Orlando after this?
Yeah, I mean, people are pretty bummed out, right? It's they're off to such a great start this year. We actually had 2 trick-or-treaters that were Paolo Banchero. That's what the kids were dressed as. They had the wig with the hair, and they had the headbands, they had the jersey, the shorts, the whole deal. And yeah, they had not heard. And I was like, I'm not ruining these kids.
I was gonna say, did you tell them?
No, absolutely not. I was like, I'm not saying anything. Plus, I think at least one of them came before that had come out. But yeah, it's surprisingly here, just as an aside, we were done by 8:30. But we had 250 kids, easy, in our neighborhood last night. I actually had to run to the store and get more candy because we were we're going to be out of candy. And but anyway, this is just a huge bummer. It sucks. We went and voted today, and I was in line, and one of the guys had a Magic shirt on. And I was like, Banchero, huh? And he's like, man, he goes, I'm just so bummed out. He's like, I love this team. And that's the sentiment. A lot of people here in Orlando have become huge fans of that with this team. And they're just really, out of it, with this news. So it sucks. Thankfully, it's early, right? It's only 4 to 6 weeks. It's going to be pretty bumpy for the next month, probably realistically 2 months by the time he's got to ramp up and ready to go. So we're talking probably the first of the year, maybe Christmas we could see him back if it a quicker recovery. But yeah, it's just a bummer because he was playing so great too.
Yeah, he really was playing fantastic basketball. I thought I was looking at this year as the year that Paolo becomes, you could say he hit superstar status last year, but this is the year that he becomes recognized as a true superstar in this league. And so this is, like you said, the year's not over. There's a long way to go, and he can certainly still come back and make a big impact. But this takes the wind out of the Magic sails for a little bit here while he's on the sideline. So unfortunate, and Keith, we just keep seeing more and more injuries around the NBA popping up. On the positive note, though, Joel Embiid and Paul George practice in full, so hopefully that means a return for them is coming soon. I guess you never know. The Sixers won't tell you because they don't want to say anything about it, but a return should be soon.
Yeah, so we'll stick with that one because I'm guessing you did not see the other injury update because you were setting up the show.
Was there something else?
Yeah, for the Pelicans, but we'll get to that in a minute.
No.
And it's not good news.
Come on.
So, yeah, Embiid not going to play tomorrow. He did say that, but getting close. Him and Paul George both practiced in full. So my guess is probably not through the weekend, but maybe early next week is when we see them make their debut, maybe in the same game. Thank God for Tyrese Maxey. Otherwise, I feel like Tyrese Maxey is going to be worn out by the time we hit like Christmas games. He's just been logging not only a ton of minutes, but a huge amount of usage for the Sixers. And that's the thing where it kind of can get real wonky, right? Playing a lot of minutes is one thing, but if you're playing a lot of minutes and you're not a high usage guy, that's a different thing. But he is like their entire offense right now, minus a little bit of Kelly Oubre Jr. So that makes it really, really tough for Maxey. So they got to get those guys back, start winning some games, start stacking some wins, and go from there. We'll go to the other injury update, though.
Yeah.
So the New Orleans Pelicans released Herb Jones has a right shoulder strain in small, low-grade partial thickness tear in his rotator cuff. I don't even know what that last part means. Recovery timeline is not good. Recovery timeline is approximately 2 to 4 weeks. Return to play will be based on how he responds to treatment and rehabilitation. In addition, CJ McCollum has been diagnosed with the right adductor strain. McCollum is expected to miss approximately 2 to 3 weeks. So call it 2 to 4 weeks on those two guys between the two of them with the Pelicans. Pelicans team that is already, just to remind folks, without Trey Murphy and without DeJounte Murray. So down guys.
What's happening here is the Pelicans are being slapped directly in the face with a brutal dose of irony because right now the only healthy players on their team are Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. Right? Go figure.
Yeah, the two guys who you probably would have came in if it was like, hey, tell me two Pelicans that'll miss a bunch of time early. You'd be like, oh, Zion and BI. Like that's it. Yeah, and there they are. So that is man, I don't know what to make of that with those two guys. Being down. Murphy sounds like Murphy's getting maybe closer, so maybe another week or two. So my guess is it's going to be like Willie Green, maybe in like call it a month. May wake up and be like Christmas morning with like, look at all the players I got. This is amazing. This is great. Let's go. I actually may have to how many minutes into hours of the show did we spend over the summertime? Like, who's not going to start for New Orleans? Like, they've got too many guys. And, and the basketball guys are like, we got it. Well, we'll take care of it. So there we are. And then
we kept saying they don't have a center. And the basketball gods came in and said, you don't have anything else now either.
Yeah. You can play with only centers, I guess. The rest of it. On that note, Daniel Tice rolled an ankle in their last game. It's not like a serious injury, but he missed the second half of their last game against the Warriors. Yves Missy stepped in for him and played actually really, really well in that game. But yeah, I mean, mixed bag schedule wise, right? You got Atlanta and Portland, winnable games, but Indiana, Cleveland, Orlando, OKC, Denver, the Lakers, Dallas, Cleveland again. Like, whew, man. And that's just to get you to Thanksgiving. Like, that's pretty rough.
Yeah. That is not going to be good. Not good for the Pelicans right now. In fact, here let me just click over here on this right now. The Pelicans. We look at the standings.
Yeah, this is what I was going to ask you to do.
The Pelicans sitting in the West right now, sitting as the 12th seed. Now, obviously, I mean, most teams have played 5 games right now, so it's insanely early. But still, 2-3 right now in the season. Negative 8.2 point differential, which is the second worst in the Western Conference, behind only the Utah Jazz. I mean, we talk about it, how the West is so deep and how all it's going to take is, an injury here or there is ultimately going to be what separates who makes it into the playoffs and who does not. It feels weird because it's so early, but is this going to be the separator for the New Orleans Pelicans, which keeps them below the play-in line?
Yeah, we said that, right? Because we said two teams that should be pretty decent teams aren't even going to make it to the postseason, which is the meeting the play-in tournament, the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it happens, right? It was just going to be the Memphis Grizzlies last year, the year from hell.
Sure.
Everybody's injured, everybody's out. Speaking of Memphis, they're down Desmond Bane and Marcus Smart right now, which is just like, what is the
And then
world?
they still crushed the Bucks last night.
Oh my God, destroyed the Bucks. Did you see?
We need to talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about it. And I want to pull the
I'll pull the box
tweet
score.
I shared. I want to pull the tweet I shared, and we'll play the little clip of the video because it was pretty amazing.
Okay.
The jaw play. If you haven't seen it, it's fun.
Oh, the on his butt
yes,
lob.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's a Wemby clip I also want to play too. I tweeted that one also.
I was recording something earlier, Keith, and I was talking about that highlight, and I said he threw a lob from his butt.
Yep.
And then I went, oh, that just doesn't sound good.
Yeah, that's true.
I need to reword that.
Be a strategy.
Thank goodness I could edit.
I don't know if I'd want to be on the receiving end of that lob.
No, right?
I might be like, give me some gloves here before I finish this one.
Hand sanitizer.
That's kind of funny. Yeah, lob from his butt, flushed through the hole.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
This show just got adult. We'll save that for front office overtime. That kind of
There we go.
But yeah, that's going to be how it happens in the West. It's going to be teams fall apart because of injuries. Like, we know Portland's not going to be good. Utah's not going to be good. I think San Antonio's still a year away. It's going to be the other two teams that drop out. My guess is injuries. And that's where a month of not having key guys, that can make a huge difference. Like, I don't know how many games that'll be for the Pelicans, but they may get in there where they're like, if they're 8 and like 20, at the end of, by the time they start getting these guys back, that might be enough to be like, well, your season, not that you would quit on the season, but like, it's going to be tough to get back from this. Like, that's just, that is, rough, let's call it first third of the season for them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Let's talk about that Bucks thing. Do you have if you want to find the tweet?
Yeah, it's just on, you already have.
I can go grab it. Okay, so bottom line, the Bucks got blown out by the Grizzlies. I'll find that play that you're talking about. But the Bucks get blown out by the Grizzlies. Keith, Giannis scored almost 40% of the Bucks points. He had 37 points in this game. At some point, Giannis is going to start looking around and go, this isn't it. This team's too old. We're not getting it done. We're getting crushed. I don't think we're there yet, but does Giannis bring up the reverse trade request? They might trade me if we don't win thing again. Like this situation is not good in Milwaukee right now.
No, definitely is not. I don't think Giannis is, they're certainly not going to trade him. I don't think Giannis is going to come out and ask for a trade. But here's the thing. They're a second apron team with limited resources as far as draft picks because they traded a bunch of them to get Dame. They traded a bunch previous to get Drew Holiday. They haven't finished paying off the Drew Holiday trade yet with the Pelicans. I think it's kind of been a running joke in Pelicans fandom of like, hey, we have the Bucks first rounder if it's top 4 this year. So like, let's, maybe it'll all fall apart.
It's not going to be that bad, but still.
Right. But they, there's no like pointing to one or two guys and be like, well, there's the trade, right? Like,
right.
That's it. Yeah. The nuclear option would be like, all right, guys, we're trading Giannis and here's, everything under the sun to get him. And we're just completely resetting and we'll trade Dame. But that's much more of a, we'll do that next summer thing.
Yeah.
Those super duper star trades are just so hard. And they're only going to be harder with the apron rules and having to match salary exactly and all the stuff that goes along with that. So I have that. Do you want me to pull it up?
Yeah, here I'll throw it up there right now.
Oh, I got it. I have the video up already.
Okay, cool. Let's why don't we show it? Here we go.
All right.
Morant trying to feed it. Ball to the floor. Job from the seat of his pants. Loves Ronaldo! Holy cow! You gotta be kidding me!
So fun. Like just unbelievably fun with that. Like just couldn't be better with that one. That was just like I love that he's on the floor. He fakes a pass to his left. Looks like he's gonna pitch it to Aldama at the arc and then lets him cut and then lobs it. Like
So great.
Just
Welcome back,
unbelievable.
John.
He's so good, man. Like
It's so
he
fun.
might be the most fun player to watch in the league right now. For me, it's either him or Wemby. Just
Sure.
because they're gonna do stuff nobody else really does. Speaking of that, well, if you want to talk about that for a minute, I'll find and pull up the Wembanyama clip too because it was it was also pretty funny.
So I'll talk about that, and we need to go back to the Grizzlies for something in just a minute. But Victor Wembanyama, a 5x5, the Andre Kirilenko, the 5x5, at least five counting stats in 5 categories. Did it in what was it? Rebounds, steals, blocks, points, and assist. Was it? Yeah. I was going to say he got close.
Those are the really.
He almost got a 5x6. Keith, I recall he was 4 for 13 from 3.
Sure. Yeah. So I don't count the 3-pointers. Like that's weird to me because like those are just baskets. Like but if you count the traditional stats, 5x5. The Hakeem Olajuwon and Andre Kirilenko, the only other 2 players to have multiple 5x5s. Now, yes, blocks and steals got added as stats much later. So I'm sure Will Chamberlain probably pulled it off. Who knows how many times? Bill Russell probably had a couple himself too. So, there are some people I think saying, like, I think Dr. J might have had a couple. He had one official one. But it's only the 23rd one ever. Olajuwon had 6 of them. Kirilenko had 3, and Wemby has 2, and his first one was like 9 months ago. That he got his first one at the end of his rookie season. So I'm gonna guess Hakeem Olajuwon's record of 6 is probably not gonna last too long with Wemby. Here was my favorite one. I'm gonna pull it up and run it here. The clip, just because this is all right. So I'm glad it's freeze framed here right at the start of the play. So you can see, and I'm using I don't know if people can see, but look at the top of the screen. It's Colin Sexton is on a run out. One of the quickest guards in the league. Wemby's like, all right, I got to get back. Now I'm going to run. Now I'll just run the play.
Collins got a nice hand up, but took it away from Castle. Wemby will block it away out of the hand of Colin Sexton. Collins got a nice.
There's nothing look, they're even at half court. It's a guard against the center.
Yeah, but
2 full steps on him.
Look at how many, it takes 3 steps. Just watch the strides. It takes 3 steps for Colin Sexton to equal 1 step for Wemby.
Yep. Here, I'll run it so you can actually see it. Try to pause it. There, he's got a full step on him there.
It looks like
2 steps on him there. And then you can tell he's already like, uh-oh, this might not go how I want it to. Let me try to go under the rim to get the protection on the rim. And
it took it away.
Yeah, good luck, young fella.
I think his only chance would have been to fast jump that and try to extend and stretch to get the ball up over the rim before Wemby can get there.
Or try to up fake him and let him fly by.
Yeah, that would have been it. And then if he doesn't fly by, at least you have a trailer you could drop it off to there. But yeah.
I'll say this too on this those clips. You can get all those clips. These are completely out there for anybody to get on the NBA site. You go on NBA.com, pull up any box score, and you can just click if it's a blue link on any stat. You click it, and it'll run the clip and show you how many. So if a guy made 10 shots, it'll run all 10 of them in a row and all that. So yeah. Just not something we're going to do often, but just a little fun because I pulled those clips earlier. I'll shout it out. I pulled those clips because I learned today or yesterday how to insert video into Substack articles for the basketball bulletin. So the basketball bulletin, my NBA game notes live there now, and they are out there, and they are there for anybody to go and read today. completely free to give you a snippet. Tomorrow's we're going to start putting some. We'll give you a couple game notes free, and then the rest will go behind our paywall. But trust me, our paywall is as low as it can possibly be.
Literally as low as the platform lets us.
Yeah. So we've put it as low as they allow us to. Trevor just put the link to the basketball bulletin in the chat. So please, jump over there and support us. If you're interested too, you can find again for free if you want to check it out first. My 2025 NBA draft big board is out there. 76 players ranked into 5 different tiers, ranked within those tiers. I have those players there out there for people to peruse. College basketball, Trevor, I know you're not the biggest college basketball guy. Starts on Monday. The college season starts Monday. So
more basketball.
We're pretty fired up about that. I love those early season because we get those early season tournaments that are on in the middle of the day. So it gives us stuff to watch like the in Hawaii and everything else. So check those things out. Check out the big board. Check that out if you're interested in draft coverage because I'm all in on this draft class, 2 feet all in.
They're going to be good.
Game notes every day from there. So check those things out.
Yep, definitely, guys. Make sure you guys check that out. Again, the basketball bulletin's over on Substack. As Dave says, like Spike since we're off topic. Yes, please. Let's get a like Spike going there. All right. Let's see. Will the Bucks? Ryan said, will the Bucks do a fire sale this season? I think we kind of talked about that. If they're going to do something drastic like that, it's probably going to be over the summer. Now, unless things really get crazy this season, and then they get an offer they can't refuse for Giannis or something like that. Yeah. Otherwise, it's almost certainly. And even then, it would take Giannis telling the Bucks trade me, right? Like he would have to do that in order for them to move on from him. But yeah, I would say if it does get to that point where the Bucks just say this isn't going to work, it'll be over the summer.
Yeah, and without being silly about it, the Bucks are 1-4, but like the Celtics, for example, are in second place at 4-1. They're 3 games out, so it's not all is not lost. It's too early for this kind of stuff, but it's certainly possible that Milwaukee does something. It's just, again, it's going to be very hard. They're second apron teams.
That's
so
very limited.
Aggregate salaries together. They could trade Brook Lopez or Chris Middleton and take back 2 or 3 guys if they wanted to do it that way. But yeah, and then a Giannis trade or a Dame trade. Those would be really, really tough to pull off just because of the size of their salaries. We don't generally see full max guys move with that. So. This one makes me laugh. Jeez,
I mean, but
I think he is the lead assistant, so probably. But yeah, I have a hard time believing they're gonna fire Doc. I will say, somebody said to me in the league yesterday, they're off the hook for paying Bud because he's working for the Suns now. So
that's true.
They are only paying Adrian Griffin and Doc. So. They wanted to fire Doc and go right back to where they were again. They could do that. So, yeah.
Man, I would be surprised if they did that, though.
I would be. Yeah, I think they're all going to get the year. I think they're going to give them all this year to figure it out. But I do think you're going to see the Bucks. I'm not necessarily saying it's Giannis, Dame, or even Doc. I think you're going to. Chris Middleton might be done there. Brook Lopez, maybe they're ready to move in a different direction. Remember, too, Brook Lopez was Bud's guy, right? He's not necessarily Doc's guy. He doesn't really play defense the way Doc necessarily wants to play defense. So I think they're in a spot where they would, potentially look to make big changes around those guys. And then what you get is one more bonus year of, all right, let's see if this works. And then if that doesn't work, then that's when you probably do some different stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably what we see, especially after they made that change mid-season. Doc comes in, kind of bails them out in a way. And yeah. RP said, are you saying the Bucks shouldn't live and die with every game?
Yeah, no.
Oh, Darvin.
There's too many of them.
Well, Darvin had that comment that pissed off a lot of Lakers fans last season.
I don't know what that is.
He made a comment about just being aghast about the fact that fans are living and dying with every game. It's just ridiculous and all this stuff. And that just pissed off a lot of people. Like, what are you,
I mean, I kind of agree with him.
I won't read. litigate all of that kind of stuff. But upset a lot of people because people are like, well, that's part of what makes Lakers fans. They watch every game with that much intensity, that much interest, and they care about each game. Plus, he was in the middle of the playoff race in the West at that time. We're like, no, like literally every game matters.
Yeah. When you get to March and it like really is like a spot where it's like,
exactly.
Oh crap! Like
he said it in like February or March or something.
Yeah, that's too much. I will say, like, so there were not very many, but there were a handful of Celtics fans that were absolutely livid about the loss to the Pacers, and like already like this team's not going anywhere. I can just see it, and it's like, good Lord, would you calm down?
That's where it gets too
like,
far.
Yeah,
when any loss and it's the sky is falling and it's all over, and like
absolutely, yeah. It's October. They're 4-1. They're winning at the exact same clip they won at last year. Like, just breathe. I was gonna pull a couple. I should have started them. I don't know. I don't know what this is. I have not seen this.
I saw a bit of it got aggregated about the Nuggets not wanting to give up some of their young guys in a trade for Paul George, and there was something about that. But I have not seen the article, and it was the account that one of those accounts that aggregates everything and then doesn't put a link to what they're aggregating. So they quoted Sam Amick, but I have no idea where it's. If there was an article from Amick that came out, I looked at Amick's Twitter. There wasn't anything promoting it. So I'm not sure exactly where it came from, but obviously it's from something out there. this
stuff too, you like, if you're an aggregator, link back, because was it on a podcast? Was it on like ESPN guys will say it on NBA Today, and then it's like, you did, like, was it there? Was it on a YouTube show? Was it a written article? Like, just like, I get you may not always have the clip, but at least say like Sam Amick said on the NBA front office podcast, like, he said this, and you can kind of go from there. Like, that's aggravating aggregation. Like, beyond the nonsense aggregation where it's like, let me pull this and twist it, because then it's
because you want to get
something
context.
That's worse to me. But I just always link back. Like, I just haven't seen it.
Shelburne wrote an article about the Nuggets for ESPN. I would have to go and read the article. I'll take a look at it, definitely. But again, I don't want to comment on it without having read what it says, actually.
I'll try to read it after the show, and then if there's anything that jumps out, I'll kind of talk about it on Twitter from there. There was another one that was up near that one.
Why did they fire Bud, the Bucks?
He just had run his course. Like,
I mean, they were planning to fire him, and then he won a championship, so that stayed the execution for a little while.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, eventually too, coaches just run their course. Like, unless you are Pop or Spo and you've become like an institution, if you're not winning or close to winning almost every year in, year out, you're just not going to be there. You're going to get moved on from. Like, it's just how it goes. This was the other one. What happens if you do a trade that takes you over 15 players? Great question. You can't. So what actually happens is, let's say a team with 15 players does a trade. They do a 2-for-1 trade. They would have to waive a player first to complete the trade. So on trade deadline day, or like trade deadline week, if you follow me on Twitter, you will often see me say, when a trade report comes out, there's more to come in this trade, because either one, the salary matching doesn't exactly work here, so they've got to do something, or two, somebody's going to have to be waived or added into the trade going the other way, or expanded out to another team or something like that. So, but you can't go over 15. You would have to, in season, to be very clear. In the off season, you can go up to 21. That's part of the reason why we say, like, a Giannis trade where it may take 4 or 5 salaries to trade for a guy that makes $50+ million for a team, that you can do in the offseason. That's part of why the Cat trade had to happen then, because they would not have been able to do that trade in season the way they needed to, because you need these additional roster spots. But in season, you can't go over 15. You would have to waive 1, 2, whatever number of players you're going to be plus. And you have to do that before the trade. You can't do the trade, then look at it and say, all right, well, the other thing, people get this mixed up all the time. Let's say you're bringing in a second guy just as a salary, but you don't really want him. So you're going to waive him. You still have to waive a player first to complete the trade. Then you can waive the guy. Then if the guy you waived makes it through the waiver process and wants to come back, you can obviously re-sign him then. But that's where teams try to get it gets very difficult. Sometimes you'll see, like, can we get a third team to take this guy? Because we don't really want to waive our guy because that gets tricky for us.
Yeah, it's some of the intricacies of the trade market. That's where we're too, like, because I put that stuff out on Twitter before too, or on X, where a trade comes through and we'll say like, oh, there's more coming, and then people are like, whoa, does this mean this player's being added in, or this big thing's happen? No, like, typically not a big thing. We're just saying in order to make the trade legal, and it usually winds up being something that doesn't fundamentally alter the trade itself. Like, most people will still think of it as, player X for players Y and Z or something like that. But then some other little things around the periphery have to happen in order to make it a legal trade. So it's funny when you throw stuff like that out there, then people think that means something big is coming along.
Yeah,
like, no, that's not. Just saying, functionally, in order to make the trade work, they're going to have to waive this 15th man that most people have never heard of, and that type of stuff.
It was funny. So I'll pull up the question because somebody asked it. Why waive Reese just to sign Leon's? What happens with AJ Mitchell makes no sense. They're basically treating that last spot, like I called it on Twitter yesterday, 2 days ago, whenever it was that this happened. They're treating it like pseudo 10 days. You can't sign actual 10 days until January 5th. So what OKC is doing is bringing these guys in on non-guaranteed contracts. So Reese was there on a 10-day contract, played it out. He actually was there for 12 days, but he was there on a non-guaranteed contract, played for 12 days. They move on from him. Now they bring in Malevi Leons to replace him. He's on a non-guaranteed deal. So if they're, another, week, 2, 3 weeks, whatever, into it, and they're like, all right, we need to do something different, they can just waive him and move on. They're so far under the tax that it doesn't really matter for them to be taking on some additional salary because it's whatever. That only really matters if you're dealing with the tax or the aprons. They're so far away, they can play this game for a little while. AJ Mitchell, like, let's say they're like, man, we got to convert AJ Mitchell from his two-way contract. As an aside, AJ Mitchell was one of my guys in the draft process. I loved his game coming out of school and was really excited when he landed with OKC because they know how to really develop guards there. But as an aside, Studio Stu checking in.
Studio Stu coming in.
I love it. But AJ Mitchell, if they decide, we got to convert him, this doesn't change anything. They would just waive Malevi Leons, convert AJ Mitchell, and go. So, and that may be the way this plays out. We'll see. For right now, too early to know, but that's why they do that kind of thing there. So that's that. I just wanted to pull this one up because it was part of where we're heading a little bit with the conversation.
Oh, buddy, this cat is all about the pets. I know what it is too. He wants his food bowl filled, and so he's making himself a nuisance. This is what he does when.
That's what they say, right? You own a dog, you feed a cat. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
A couple more of these up here. Mamadou says, I feel like they got worse after Doc took over. They were 30-13 with Griffin. Yeah, it hasn't been great.
There was weird stuff going on though with Griffin, like the whole thing with Terry Stotts to even start this before the season even started. That was strange.
They were 30-13, but it was like the most unhappy 30-13 I think we've seen in a long time. A lot of people weren't there.
It's like they were at Disneyland, but it's cloudy and raining, and multiple good rides are shut down, and
Good call. I like it. This one's for you.
Oh. Did you ever debate students on hoops as a teacher? Oh yeah, for sure. Especially because I lived in, I was teaching in the Phoenix area, and so it was, it's a weird mix in Phoenix of Lakers fans and Suns fans, and so there were always little debates and things like that would happen. But also when it's junior high kids, the debates would be usually not very heated, or it's not like we're yelling back and forth or anything like that, because a lot of the kids would just go, oh, I like the Suns. Okay. Why? Well, I don't know. I like the one guy. Which guy? Steve Nash? Yeah. Okay. Do you know anybody else on the roster? No. Oh, okay. Okay. We talk about it, but it was fun though. We did have some kids who were really into basketball, and we would talk hoops for a while and everything. And then when it was trade deadline day and my kids are just doing worksheets, those kids knew why. They knew what was up there. Like Mr. Lane's back at his desk, updating, seeing what's going on.
Mr. Lane put on a movie today. That's when you put on like a long one. That's like, hey, we're gonna watch a multi-part, well, boy, I know you taught history, so it's we're gonna watch Gettysburg. It's like
America, the story of us.
Yeah,
that was my go-to.
Yeah. There it is. Yeah,
the History Channel.
Every there's 5 hours of class time blown during trade deadline week. It's so funny. So I had a similar thing to this. This was only like 2 weeks ago. We're at a school event, and I found myself. I ended up talking with a bunch of the kids instead of the adults. And part of it was the adults were there. I fully admit this is a flaw, a huge character flaw for me. I struggle to connect with grown-ups, like especially men that don't like sports. Like I don't have a lot else to really talk about. Like I'm a very, very simple person. And if like you're not into sports, I don't really have a whole lot else I can get into with you. If you want to talk about Marvel movies, I guess I would have been down for that. But they were very like into a very getting heated political discussion that I had like very little interest in being a part of, because it was starting to go to play. And I'm like, dude, our kids all go to school together and they're all friends. Like we don't need to be like over here fighting like this at a school event.
Right.
But yeah, it is a complete failing of mine that I struggle to have grown-up conversations unless they're about sports.
I do the same thing. Like, I mean, I could talk about a lot of different stuff because I was a teacher, but I mean, like you start getting into, I built this deck over the last month and I used all this stuff and I'm lost. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Oh yeah, I use this saw and this kind of wood and all that. And then I was able to put it together like this. And I'm just like, okay, well that's great. That's totally outside. Or people start talking about guns and ammo and stuff like that. And I'm just like, that's totally outside.
Yeah.
My world.
I'm completely out. Yeah. It's those are things I don't really understand here. And we got some good cap related questions today.
What about cars? That too. Like I know nothing about cars.
Yeah. I mean, and I am not judging anybody. Have your hobbies, right? Like those are just not my things.
My life is just so absorbed with basketball and sports. There's not a lot of like to go do other stuff. There's not a ton of room for all of that.
Without a doubt. All right, I'll pull this one up because the answer is pretty simple. Pretty damn impressive. How impressive is it that the Cavs are 5-0 without Strus?
They looked
they're playing great. They look awesome. Like they haven't missed him at all, which is kind of surprising considering he's their best volume shooter. I hesitate to call him their best shooter. So there you look at it, his percentages haven't been all that great in the last few years, but he's their best volume guy. He's the guy you have to guard the most. He also takes some of the tougher shots. He's not an off the dribble guy, but he takes a lot of movement shots and things, a lot of like coming off screen, catch and shoot type shots. So those are always a little bit harder to do that. So yeah, it's but yeah, man, they look good. Really, really good. So
the Cavs, I talk a lot about the best teams in the NBA. What they do is they punish teams for their mistakes, and they create a lot of mistakes from their opponents, but they also recognize those mistakes and they consistently capitalize on them. And that's exactly what this Cavs team has been doing. They did that to my Lakers the other night. Every time the Lakers made a mistake, it was like, boom, Cavs 3. Throw a bad pass, boom, Cavs 3. They just made sure that anytime you made a mistake, they put points on the board and they made it hurt. And they were great. They played some really excellent basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this is, but yeah, just they're really, really good. I mean, they are built really well, provided everything just kind of keeps moving the way it's been moving, right? You got to we've seen these little snippets of Evan Mobley being this guy. And then for whatever reason, the last couple of seasons, it just kind of then goes away. So if this continues, that opened up a whole different, ball game for them, because now you're not just two bigs kind of getting in each other's way a lot. Like Mobley is a playmaker. And I love that Kenny Atkinson has put him in a spot where it's like, we're going to make you have to make reads here. Like we're not going to make it easy for you. Like we're going to almost force you to be involved on offense. And that's been huge. So yeah, that's been great.
All right. Let's see. Anything else that we want to go to?
I started a couple others, so I'll pull them up. Lakers trade idea. JHS 2029 first, remove the 2027 protection for Kessler. I mean, I don't think I would do that if I was the Lakers. I don't think I'd want to give up a first and remove pick protections off another pick. I like Walker Kessler. I think he's getting back to where we want him to be, what we saw from him as a rookie, as opposed to what we saw from him last year. That just starts to be a lot.
Well, and the pick protections are top 4.
Yeah,
so
I guess that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to be pretty bad for that to come in. But if it does come into play, that's huge, right?
Yeah, that's huge.
So,
yeah.
So
and then you're giving up
that risk there.
Real first. Like I don't know. It's probably a little too much for me.
Well, and you're gonna have to pay Kessler on his next contract. But I do like Walker Kessler a lot. I think he'd be good next to Anthony Davis.
Sure.
It would be tempting, especially now that Jalen Uchifino is officially nothing. He's just an expiring contract. And that's all he is.
Yeah.
That, maybe that's something that you look at.
I like this better in, I don't know, I'm going to say like 2 years when LeBron's maybe retired.
Sure.
Then I really like Walker Kessler better for the Lakers then I like him for the Lakers right now, just because I think his time right now would be semi-limited. Let's just say he'd be kind of like the third guy in a 3-man rotation with LeBron and AD, because you can't really play the 3 of them together all that many minutes. That I think becomes a bigger challenge. Dave asks, would the new trade and roster restrictions, would it be possible to trade a player away, then trade to get him back a few days later? You can't reacquire within a year unless the player has gotten already to a third team. So you'd have to do that. But yeah, you can't. That rule still remains the same. You just can't reacquire a guy for 1 year after you trade him away. What situation would you lose bird rights? This is from Smokey. After you make a trade, if a player is on a 1-year contract, and that includes with options, this is also why these players can block trades at the end. They lose their bird rights. So if you lose your bird rights, that's why you get the de facto no trade clause and can block that. Trevor and I pretty early shows together over on Lakers Nation
Talked
before
a lot
we
about
even
that.
doing this. A lot about that when the Lakers were, you get a player option, you get a player option, you get a player option. Everybody had player options there. And then this one was me specifically. Would I work with NBC again? Yeah, I worked for NBC Sports before the bubble. I've said this repeatedly. They kept me on far longer than they should have when everything shut down. They were one of the outlets I was working for when I left my job at Disney to do this full time. I was with NBC, and I they were great. I was covering horse for them. All kinds of stupid, crazy stuff that we were just coming up with to get any kind of sports content you could have, because people were like, please give me something. We did mock expansion drafts. We did a lot of stuff. And then eventually got to a point where it's like, all right, we just can't, there's where we stretch this as long as we can. And yeah, I ended up getting let go, but back. So did a lot of people. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I have no hard feelings towards them by any means at all. I loved my time there. There's still some of the people I worked with are still there, and they're some of the best people I know doing this and living in this media world on the NBA side. That there's wonderful people. So.
All right, Kane Carter, which NBA player would it be most awkward to be stuck in an elevator with, and why? For example, a player or players you critiqued a lot. I mean, even so, does that player know you critiqued them a lot?
That's like that. I don't know how many would even know that.
Some would.
Yeah,
some would, but some wouldn't. Let me just say, and this is kind of my, I guess, shows where my head is at, and this is why I taught junior high. But mine would be Dwight Howard, because he was known to emit some offensive odors every now and then. He's known around the
every
NBA.
Now and then, as in all of the time.
All the time. Yeah. Dwight, he's a little bit gassy.
Yeah. Dwight was his time with Orlando and the Lakers. He was a man child, to say the least.
Yeah.
It's a good question. I don't because. And I think I can answer this with you too. For you too, I should say. We don't do hot take stuff where we say like completely crazy things that we don't believe. So I would, if we say something, we stand by it. So like, I would love to have a conversation. I had this happen once. It was actually with Steve Clifford with the Magic. I'd written something that like he wasn't upset about it, but he was like, let me explain it a little bit more. Why it was a rotation decision he had made. And he's like, let me explain why we did that. And that was actually cool that he took the time. And then after the presser in Orlando, at that time, the head coach then immediately went to go do the TV. Like they do that like 2 minutes with just the TV broadcast before the game starts. He would go do that. So like we happen to be walking out of the press room door at the same time. He's like, did that make sense? He's like, I know you got a job to do too. He goes, but I wanted to make sure you understood my reasoning behind it. And I was like, it does. And then he goes, you don't agree? And I said, I don't agree. And he goes, that's okay. He's like, but I wanted you to know my reasoning. And that was really cool that he took the time to, do that and did it in a decent way. Cause Cliff could be a kind of a cranky dude at times. Like there's no doubt about that. But
that was really nice of him to do that then. And that's the way, kind of it should be. And you wish it was more often. I mean, there's like, if you go back and you watch like Russell Westbrook, right? Who, by the way, he was known as a really good dude, like around the NBA. But if you've ever watched like his pressers with the Lakers, he got pissed off based on what someone wrote about him. And so if you ever watch his pressers, when certain reporters ask certain questions, he gives a 1-word answer or a 2-word answer. And just because he I don't like this person, so I'm going to try to give this person nothing. Next person asks a question, he gives a long answer and explains and everything like that. Yep. You see that kind of like contentious stuff coming out more. So that's cool that Steve Clifford was like, hey, you wrote something I didn't like, but let me have a conversation about why we disagree and everything. That's what we need more of.
Yeah, it is maybe the single biggest thing I've learned with some of the play. There are some guys who they don't like certain people for whatever reason, and it's never going to get there. But the vast majority of players, coaches, front office folks, if you ask thoughtful questions, they are more than happy to engage with you and sometimes give you some of the best answers. There are times when especially here in Orlando, right? I covered the Magic games when they were awful. There was a lot of times it was the Magic beat writers, one local beat writer, and me there. And that was it. Like there might've been like 6 media people there. So we would sometimes sit down and you would have, because they give you 15 minutes, we would have like 15-minute, like deep basketball conversations because there's like, nobody's really got anything. There's no injury updates. Like, let's just talk ball. And like, it was really good stuff. So if you ask thoughtful questions, I'll also say this too. I try very hard to avoid the, hey, Trevor, talk about the way you rebounded in the third.
Talk about,
talk about is not like ask an actual question, like sit down and really like think about what is it you want? Like, what allowed you to be so successful on the boards in the third quarter when maybe you haven't been at other times?
Exactly.
Those kind of things. I would go last with questions because I let the beat guys they have to get quotes to get their stories out and all that stuff. So I'd let them get their stuff out unless there was something specifically that I was really working on. Then I was like, I got to get my question in because this might be it. Especially visiting teams, I might be through here once this year, and this may be my only chance to talk to them about this one thing. But also then that's when you call the PR team and say, hey, I just need 2 minutes with the coach or with this player. Can you give it to me? And as long as
then they will tell you no.
That depends on who it is, but
that depends on the organization.
Very much. Yeah. Depends on the organization. It also depends on, quite frankly, your relationship with them sometimes too. Some would just shut everything down right away. And they're like, nope, you're going to get them in the scrum and get them there if you can. And that's it. And then others are just, no, we don't do it. And then other people there. I never had.
Depends on the size of the organization too. Like if you're in a smaller market and stuff, you're going to get better access overall.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're there a lot. Now, if you're ripping them all the time, you don't have cover. You're not one of 30. Like with the Lakers, I can't imagine there's been a Laker game in the last 20, 30, 40 years that's had less than 30 media members at it, right? Because there's so many people. But yeah, this is a great question. Did Pop ever snap at a question of yours? Never did it to me. I actually got the good question from Pop once during a preseason. And man, I was on a high for
You're like Pop told me good question.
Yeah, I was like, Pop said good question. Like I'm done. Like I did it. Like, see you guys later. I'm going home. Like, it was good. And it honestly wasn't even a great question. I asked him about integrating veteran players and asking them to come off the bench when all they've ever done is start. I think it was Rudy Gay. They were putting him on the bench, and all he had ever done was start in his career. And Pop was like, he's like, that is a great question. And then he went into his thought process on it. It was Stu is mad, man. He's like,
he's like, fill here? My food bowl right now. Yeah. He's like nudging me. Come on,
feed me, Seymour. Let's
feed
go.
Me.
What's your cat's name? Studio Stu. Come on now.
Stu the studio cat. He has his own over on Lakers Nation for channel members. He has his own emoji now.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
that's perfect. That's great.
Studio Stu emoji.
There was one more question I saw that came in, and I didn't have a chance to star it. Now I don't know where it went, but yeah, it's it was this one. How did I learn so much about the CBA and cap? Just put the time and effort in, and I don't have a law degree. Like, I don't understand that stuff at all. I've said it before. I'll say it one more time. Here, I'll probably say more than that, but it's worth repeating. When I wanted to learn the cap, I cold called the NBA and said, "Can I get a copy of your collective bargaining agreement?" And they said, "No, absolutely not. We don't do that." And then I hung up and I cold called the Players Association, said, "Can I get a copy of the collective bargaining agreement?" And they said, "Sure, send a self-addressed stamp envelope and $3, because that's what it'll take to print and bind it, and we'll get it to you." And like 2 weeks later, I had it. I didn't know. I have no legal training, so I did my best. Larry Kuhn, CBA FAQ, puts it all into plain English. And what I would do is I would read the actual CBA till I got stuck. And then I would go. I will also say, when I really, really started to get into this, there were message boards and Twitter was just kind of taking off, but it was still very small. So the people who knew this stuff weren't getting inundated with 9 million questions every day. So you could have like, "Hey, can I ask a couple questions?" And some of those, I bet if people really went and looked deep into my Twitter archives, you could probably find some of those back and forths with guys like Larry Kuhn and Eric Pincus and Mark Deeks and some of the very best people that knew this stuff before I did. They were extremely helpful for me. That is why, especially here on these shows, I try to answer the questions. I can't pay those guys back. They still know the cap and CBA better than I do, but I can pay it forward to people who want to understand and know more. So that's why I try to do what I can with this.
It takes a lot of being willing to fight through some of the language and stuff that's in there that is difficult to comprehend. And for a lot of people, they'll look at it and they'll go, "No, forget it. I'm not going to try to figure out what all of this means." And it is very complicated, and there's a lot of different things they have to know. And that's why most of the time, if there's something that comes up, like I'm messaging Keith and saying, "Hey, what does this mean? What is something they could do here because of this? Why are they, what do you think about this situation?" I can fight my way through most of the cap stuff, but there is some of the stuff when it gets really intricate or get into some kind of an obscure rule or something like that. And Keith, pretty much all of this stuff, but it's a lot of it too is just as you're going through stuff, you just kind of pick it up. And you just kind of learn it. Like the more you're talking, and this is what Keith and I do every day is we talk basketball. So the more you're having these conversations and the more you're talking, the more you're looking at stuff and digging into it, the more just naturally you run into situations where you go, "Oh yeah, now what happens here?" And then you look it up and you find the answer. It's kind of like how Keith, I don't know if you're the same way, but like I basically learned how to type, not in my elementary school typing class, but from AOL Instant Messenger. When that became a thing, my typing over the course of a few months suddenly hit the next level because I was doing it constantly then because of that. Because in all of my college classes, everybody in the class was all on these things and we're all typing back and forth. It's kind of the same thing with the CBA and all of that. It's once you start to where you're integrating it every day and you're discussing things and all of that, suddenly your cap knowledge just goes up.
That's it, man. And then eventually it's things like, how do bird rights work? Take up the room in your brain with like, when's my mom's birthday?
Exactly.
And when's my parents' anniversary? And I'm like, thank God I have a Google Calendar.
Like, so many times my wife will look at me and she goes, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "Oh, nothing. I'm just thinking about basketball stuff."
Yep, same thing.
I'm like, I'm off on another planet, and she's like, and she thinks something's wrong. I'm like, "Oh, no. I'm just thinking about this trade or something like that."
Yep. I have that. multiple times a day where like I'm doing other stuff. It's probably not great. And I literally, this because it happened over the summer. I think it talked about it on the show. I had to go to the store 3 times in the same day because I kept forgetting to get this one thing.
Was it the same item?
The store. Yeah, the same item. Because it was like in the middle of free agency, and like each time when I went to go in, like a tweet came out, and I was like,
"That's a dangerous time to go to the store too."
Yeah, I know, it was bad, and I was like, "All right, things are kind of quiet. I can go." And like something was playing out with this, so yeah, it's there. All right, I'm gonna do at least 2 more here,
Okay.
because they're quick. How often they update the CBA? So every CBA comes with there's like a mutual opt out point. Usually it's about every 6 years or so. CBAs usually run like 7 to 8 years in length. But it's usually after 6 years, and it's almost always at 6 years that they'll do it, that they will opt out, because there's going to be something one side or the other wants to change, and usually multiple somethings that they want to address or go. Like this time around, it was they wanted to redefine how does setting the cap work with knowing the new TV money was coming in and all that stuff. So it made it very easy for them to opt out. And then I just thought this one was kind of interesting. Do reporters just start cold calling, texting, emailing people in the league to build relationships and sources? I don't think so. And I don't know how everybody does it. You got to be around. Like that's the big thing. You got to be around games. You got to be around summer league is a great time to meet with people there. A lot of my contacts came from the old Orlando summer league because everyone was there because it was also close to the public. So you could just sit and chat and talk basketball with whoever at any point there if they were open to it. But yeah, being around different things. And then also you quite frankly, it's a give and take. You want information. So what do you have to offer them?
Yep.
So you have to have something, whether it's helping get that information out there or helping in another way and sharing stuff with that. So it can be tough. But if you want to be like a true reporter, like Shams and what Woj used to be, like you're going to live on your phone like 20 plus hours a day, like just constantly, looking for stuff. And that becomes a life.
I've had people say they had, certain reporters and stuff just blowing up their phone like constantly. Where's this at? Okay, where's the situation at now? What's going on? Relentless, and that's kind of what it takes. And Keith, that's why you and I aren't in the news breaking business. Yeah, the other thing, Keith, like if you ever get it, if you're a newsbreaker and you get it wrong, like people will remember that over the 100 things you get right. It's a tough thing to do, not only because of just the always on, nature of it, which is, even greater than even when I look at the stuff we do and I'm like, God, we're always on, we are, but that's even to a higher degree. And it's true across sports. There was a story the other day about, I believe it was Ian Rappaport was talking about like how he's getting updates at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. on a free agency thing in football or something like that. And how he's telling people, oh, no, call me in the middle of the night. I don't care. Wake me up. I need to be the first one to put the news out there. It's a different life. But if you're good at it, the people who are really good at it, obviously become a valuable part of this industry.
Yeah. I feel like Sean's because my phone has been blowing up, but it's all presidential candidates asking for money. I actually tweeted, if we want to get voter counts up in this country, there should be a thing that once you vote, so if you go to like early voting, then you can you are completely removed from the ability to be contacted, whether it be through phone, email, text, or like the mailers. I'm not kidding you, this week alone have thrown away over 30 pieces of like political mail, and it's from all sides, and it's just let me rephrase. We recycled 30 pieces of political mail because we did not throw it away. I mean,
and that's what 99% of people do. They just, just throw it out and
it's just, and I just think about the environmental waste, the waste of money that is being spent on this. The
nonstop TV ads right now, everything.
Oh my gosh, everywhere. Yeah, it's one of my good friends. He's like, he doesn't even live in this country, and he's like, I can't wait for y'all's election to be over because every ad on League Pass is like a political ad right now. And I'm like, yeah, it's and he's like, some of these are like local races in like Oklahoma, and he's like, He's like, not only do I not live in Oklahoma, but I don't even live in the United States. He's like, so I don't, really don't care. But yeah, yeah, that's just, I mean, I think that's a bipartisan rant there because I don't want it from anybody. Like, I don't need any of your stuff. Like, I don't care who you are, but yeah, just like get out of here with this.
I just every political ad that I see now, especially the ones that go negative, I can't watch it without hearing Bobby Newport.
Yeah,
Parks and
right?
Rec. Every political ad now, I see it, and I'm like, oh my god, that was so spot on. The way they clowned like political ads on TV and everything. Bobby Newport.
It's so like good. That dude sits around for 3 years, and they're like, hey, it's time to go to work, and he's like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
It's so funny. But yeah, I'm done with all of it. But yeah.
Yep.
Now, some good questions today. We got into some of the cap stuff. Somebody just asked, do I ever try to get the big breaking news? No, because I'm never going to. Like it's just not, and I don't want to. If I happen to, like, I broke when Andrew Wiggins signed his extension with the Warriors. It literally happened because I happened to be talking to somebody about something completely unrelated. And they were like, but this just happened and it's not out there yet. And I went out there and put it, and I knew this person was rock solid. Because that's the other piece too. You just take something from one person and run with it. You have to vet it. You have to be there. You have to have that relationship really, there. And that's not how I want to spend my time, is to get to that point. It's just, it's not the role I want to play in this. Like, that's just, for all the reasons we said, Trevor knows better than anybody else. I like to go to bed, and I do not want to be up at 2:30 in the morning with people texting me about, hey, this guy's signing a 2-way contract. Great. I'm happy for the player. Give it to somebody else.
I think the other thing too with what we do is, if you're going to be a newsbreaker, it's much more difficult to have an opinion on anything, because how you frame everything could potentially cost you your next scoop, right? If you don't say it the right way, you piss off the wrong person. Then you're kind of indebting yourself to other people. Whereas, like you and I obviously we don't do a lot of hot takes, so frankly we don't piss off a lot of people, but we can also say whatever we want to say, because I'm not worried about how it's going to be received, or whether or not I'm framing it correctly, whether I'm going to appease certain people or anything like that. So that's the other side of it, where it would be more difficult to do a show where we analyze and break down basketball the way we do if we're also breaking news, where we have to be very careful about it. And there's people who do it and are very, very good at it. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I would have to be a lot more careful with the things that I say and all of that too. So there's pluses and minuses to it.
I'd rather turn on the soulless transaction numbers robot part of my brain than the reporter part of my brain. Like I quite frankly, I like that a lot more. So yeah. But yeah, no, it's I mean, today was fun, man. We went longer than usual, but get into a lot of good stuff. Let's just hope next Friday let's hope this entire week, not every show is like, let's talk about another major player who's out with an injury. Like, I would really not, I would really, really appreciate that if we
let's turn off.
Let's go like 3-4 days without like any major injuries. That would be nice.
I've got this. Leon said, Trevor, you're definitely disliked by Russ stands and D'Lo stands. The Russ stands, I get, but I like to call out, hypocrisy when I see it. And so they don't like that stuff. But the funny thing is, I'm also disliked by D'Lo haters. So that tells me I'm doing something right. And if I'm disliked on both sides, that tells me I'm probably being pretty fair in my analysis of them.
That's it. Yeah. It's funny because somebody once tweeted at me. This was when I was really covering the Celtics every day to day. Somebody was like, "It's so funny. I see just as many tweets from Celtics fans as non-Celtics fans calling you an idiot. So I just assume they cancel each other out and you're actually okay." And I was like, I guess, it's just funny. But yeah. Awesome, guys. Well, we appreciate y'all for hanging out with us here on a Friday. It was a lot of fun. Hope everybody had a bunch of got a bunch of candy and all that stuff, and had a great Halloween. Now we're in it now, man. We don't no more holidays for a few weeks until we get to Thanksgiving. But yeah, it's we're full on basketball season. Like you said, college hoops start on Monday. I think Cooper Flagg's first game's actually on like ESPN too, so you'll be able to.
Let's go.
ESPN also, I should say, or it's like on ACC Network or something.
ESPN 8.
ESPNs. Yeah, the Ocho. I think.
Ocho?
Yeah. Yeah. So check that out if you're really interested in seeing what he looks like. If you've never had a chance to see him play, you'll get to start to see. So like Duke's also a team. Check them out if you're interested because they've got like 5 great prospects on their roster. So if you're economy of time,
even more basketball to watch. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Hope you have a fantastic weekend. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.